Hi guys, Ron with another video, and today we're going to be creating this Minecraft cube that you see in the lower right corner. Now the techniques that I use to create this cube, I use these same techniques as you see in the screen before you with this image called Golden Bear. The terrain is created exactly the same, and you're going to learn those techniques today. And these images are out on my Instagram page at LucidManStudio, so feel free to go over to Instagram, give me a like or follow me there. The techniques that I use in most of these diorama images for the terrain is pretty much the same. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. So we're just in Blender. We're using Blender 3.0 today. Let's go ahead and add a plane. Shift A, Mesh, Plane. Alright, I'm going to hit G and then Z just to move it up just slightly so I can see what I'm doing. We'll hit Tab to get into edit mode, and then we're going to hit S to scale, and then the number 4 to do 4 times. Okay. Once we've done that, we're going to subdivide this 4 times as well. So right click, subdivide, right click, subdivide, right click, subdivide, and right click, subdivide. So now we have this plane here that's been subdivided 4 times. Hit Tab key to get out of the edit mode. And now what we're going to do is we're going to run a displace modifier on this. So let's go over to our toolbar over here, tap on our modifiers property, go down to displace. Alright, once you've done that, you can see that the plane has moved up just slightly. That's from the mid-level here. If we drop this the other direction, it's going to go down to where it previously was, and it really doesn't matter a whole lot. We'll just keep this at 0.5. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to hit New here, and we're going to add a texture. And the texture we want to add is a cloud texture. So we'll go to Type, we'll go to Clouds. Alright. And we'll scroll down a little bit and we'll increase the size to 1 as a starting point, and then we'll go back to our displacement modifier right here and we'll play around with this. So I'm just increasing the strength a little bit, maybe something like that. Right click, shade smooth, and maybe that's a little too rocky, so we'll drop it down a little bit. So I'm at 0.6, and let's go over to our texture again. And let's see what we can do with that. Just want it a little smoother. So maybe 0.6 here. Let's go back to our displacement modifier. Let's go ahead and play a little bit with this. So maybe something like a 0.5. All right. So let's start off with that. Now that we have that, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this because I want to be able to save the original in case I need to modify the displacement and it's not working out for me. So go ahead and hit Shift D, and you can see when I hit Shift D and I'm just moving the mouse around that there's a duplicate of this. Hit right click and that'll pop it back into place, and then you'll have it over here. You'll have a duplicate sitting in the same spot. So under plane here, let's go ahead and just use this one here, and we'll just call this backup. Alright. And then the one above it is going to be the one we'll work with. So let's go ahead and turn off this one. So I'm just going to hide all this stuff here and then lock it. And then I'll select plane here, and we're going to call this our block terrain. Alright. So once we've done that, I'm going to move it up slightly again. G, Z. I'm going to move it up to like here. I'm also going to adjust the camera because it's too big in the frame. So I'm going to select my camera, hit G, Z, Z, and that's going to allow me to adjust the zoom. Something like this. Alright. And let's go ahead and save this while I'm at it. So save as, let's do this, and we'll make it a 3rd version. Okay, so once that's saved, now we need to take this terrain and we're going to extrude it downwards. And so we're going to do that in edit mode. So let's switch into edit mode. So we're going to hit Tab. Before we do that, we're going to go ahead and take this modifier and we're going to apply it. Okay, so since we already have a backup here, I don't mind just applying this, of course. So let's go ahead and go into edit mode, hit Tab, go into edit mode, and make sure hit shade smooth. So go back out of here, make sure it's shade smooth. Alright, go back into edit mode. And we're going to go ahead and extrude the edges here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit our edge select here. and hold down the Alt key and select an edge. Hold down the Shift with the Alt, select another edge, the back edge, and then this back edge over here. So now that we have all those edges selected, I'll go into solid mode so you can see them a little better. So we've got all those edges selected. I'm gonna hit my camera to reorientate, and then we're just gonna hit E to extrude, and I'm gonna hit the Z key, and we're gonna extrude straight down on the Z axis. Once we've done that, you can see that I've gone underneath my plane here, which is fine. And then I'm going to select vertex mode, and then hit S, Z, 0. And that will zero out all those vertexes along the Z plane. And then of course I'm gonna hit F to fill that. Once I've done that, I'm gonna hit my edge select tool, and then I'm gonna go ahead and bevel this edge. Control B to bevel. And then I'm gonna add some segments by hitting my mouse wheel. So I'm mouse wheeling up to add more segments, mouse wheel down to add less. So I think that many is going to be fine. And then what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna select the whole thing, hit A, toggle all, and then hit G and Z to go up. And that way it's kind of sitting on that plane that I have created. So G, Z, and I'm just gonna sit it right there. Okay. So that way it's more in the frame here. And then again, I'm gonna go back to object mode, and I'm gonna hit G, Z. I'm gonna move my camera up a little bit. There we go. All right. Once we've done that, we're gonna go back into edit mode, and I want to bevel this edge here along the sides. So make sure I have my line select tool, edge select tool selected, and then once again doing the same thing, holding down Alt and Shift and selecting all those edges. All right, Control B to bevel that edge. Something like that should be okay. All right, once we've done that, I'm gonna go ahead and add a loop. So a loop cut, I'm gonna hit Control R for loop cut. Click the left mouse button and then move it up with your mouse. And I think I'd want something right about there. So what I'm doing is I'm creating, as you can see in the image, I'm creating this kind of grass bleed, or the thickness of the grass, you know, that comes off of this, so it kind of goes down like this. And that's what that edge loop is doing for me there. All right. Okay, so once I've got that in there, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and just add some textures. So let's go ahead and bring up our texture area material properties, and we're going to go ahead and we want to select this top part here. So easy enough, we're going to go to front view, and we're going to switch over to X-ray, which is this box up here, and then we're going to switch over to face select in the top left, and we're going to box select all this area here. Make sure you get the dots, so you can see right on my marquee there's these dots. Just bring the marquee below that, and that way it selects that whole area. And that way when I preview it, I can see, oh, I've got all that selected. All right, once we've done that, we're gonna go ahead and give it a texture. So I'm gonna hit the plus key in the material slot, add a new texture. We're gonna obviously call this grass. And then once we've done that, I'm gonna slide this window over. You can do the same thing by going into shading, and we're going to select our principal BSDF. I'm going to hit Control Shift T, and then that way we're going to go ahead and find our materials. So under grass, and the materials that we want is this aerial grass. And let me show you where I get this from. .com. Once you get here, you're going to go down to textures, and then you're just aerial grass. So AERIL grass. All right, and once you do that, you'll see the texture right here. You're going to click on it, and you're going to download it. Now in my image, I've used 2K textures. You can go down to 1 if you want, or go up to 4K. Just keep in mind, obviously, the higher the number, the more resources you're going to be using in Blender, and the possibility of it rendering longer or crashing is greater depending on your video card memory. All right, so we'll set that aside. So we'll go ahead and get our aerial grass, and we'll add that. Okay, so once we've got our grass in there, let's go ahead and do a preview here. See what we're kind of looking like. Okay, I'm going to turn off the overlays so I can kind of see what I'm looking at here. Okay, so our grass is looking okay. It needs a little work. But before I work on the grass, I want to go ahead and add the rock down here, this brown material, this terrain down here. Okay, so we're going to turn back on our overlays. Now, easy enough, we're just going to hit Control I to invert the selection. Okay, and once we do that, we're going to add a new material, and we're going to hit, I'm just going to call it like Earth Terrain. Okay, and once we get that in there, then we're going to go ahead and zoom out and get our principal BSDF and Control Shift T again. And we're going to go up a directory and we're going to go to Rocks, Textures, and then Earth Rocks is what I have it called. And again, you go to Polyhaven and you can search for, grab it here, you can search for that. So same thing if I just type in like Rock 4. Should find something. Try 04. There it is. So this is the rock that I've used right here. I'm going to be using this for the earth terrain. Okay, so go ahead and download that. I did again, I did a 2K texture, put it in a folder, and then Control Shift T, grab all these guys, hit Principal Texture Setup, and it will go ahead and add everything in there for you. Okay, once it's done that, let's go ahead and fix the UVs on this. So we have it selected. We have to make sure we're in edit mode, which we are up here in the upper left. And we're just going to hit U, and we're just going to hit Smart UV Project. And that should probably give us some decent results. Up here at the top, I'm going to turn off overlays again. And it didn't apply the earth terrain. So let me try that again. So assign. Okay, there we go. Probably just forgot to assign it. Turn off overlays. And we have the earth terrain that we're looking for. Okay. Obviously, we're going to need to change it to make it look a little more like the image that we have here in the lower right, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so once that's done, we're going to go ahead and adjust the mapping on it. And what we want to use is we can use Smart UV Project and hit OK. And the scale is all wrong, so we're going to fix the scale on this one. And let's go ahead and do 3 and then 3. And let's see what we get there. Yeah, that's looking better. I might even want to go to 4. Okay. No, I'm not liking that. Let's do 2. That's not looking too bad. Okay. Once we get that, let's go ahead and fix the grass, how it's stretching here. Let's turn on overlays again, invert the selection, Control I, or you can what you can do is you can just select the grass over here in the materials and hit select. It does the same thing. All right, hit U, Smart UV Project, and then hit OK. And let's turn off overlays and see what we look like. And we're looking fine. All right, same thing with the grass is we're going to, okay, so with the grass, we're going to go ahead and leave the scale at 1, UV, which is great. And then we're going to go ahead and add some a bright and contrast node. And we're going to drop that in here right before base color. And we're going to adjust the contrast. So I'm just going to pop this to 1.5. And once we've done that, we want to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the displacement on this. So we're just going to mute this. That way it's off. As far as the normal map, I'm going to increase the strength here a little bit. And then let's take a look at it. And obviously it needs to be more green. So before our material output, I'm going to go ahead and add a mix node. Or a mix shader, excuse me. And we'll pop that in there. And then I'll go ahead and add an RGB node. Alrighty. And let's see here. We want to go ahead and let me check my hex value. Alright, so we want to drop this into here. And let's go ahead and drop the factor down to 0.4. And let's get a hex. Let's see, hex value. Alright, let's put that in here. So the hex value we want is IE4218, and we'll enter that. All right. Let's see what we look like now. So now we're looking a lot more like the image down here in the lower right. We still need to make an adjustment to the terrain, so let's go ahead and do that as well. Get my reference for that. So terrain, drop this down, turn on our overlays again, click off, select earth terrain, hit select, and let's go ahead and adjust this guy. I'm sure it just needs some bright and contrast adjustment. Okay, let's go ahead and put our values in, and the values I used were a negative 0.07 and a contrast of 0.1. Let's see how that's looking. Looking not bad. Okay, looking very similar to what we have already. Let's go ahead and check our values here. See if we increase it to 3. All right, that's looking a lot better. All right, so that's basically a big part of it. And let's go ahead, and the next thing we want to do is we want to add some rocks to the top here. So like in the image down here in the bottom, we have these rocks that are kind of in the grass here, and we want to go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and get that going, and I'm just going to do some window management here. So under geometry, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the hide the block terrain in the viewport so I can see the rock that I'm going to add. So hit Shift A and then go down to rock generator. All right, and then once we've done that, we can go ahead and select the rock, turn on overlays again, GZ, and I'm just going to kind of look at the rock here real quick. It's nothing crazy, of course, but I want to check it out anyways. I'm going to go ahead and make sure smoothing is off, so auto smooth, because if it's not, it can create some artifacts. Definitely don't want those. Okay, I'm going to rotate the rock here. I don't really like the orientation, so I like more like that. That looks better to me. And once I've got it that way, I mean, I could adjust it in the scatter, but I'll just adjust it right here for as far as orientation. And open up the panel here, and we're just going to adjust the placement. And go item, and we're going to hit 0, drop it back down, and then end to collapse that panel. And then once we've got it down there, we're going to go ahead and add a texture to it. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll go over to our materials palette, and we're going to hit new, plus, and then new, and we're just going to obviously call this rocks. Once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and add a texture to our principal BSDF. So we've got it selected here, Control Shift T, go up a directory, and rocks above is what I've got. Same drill, if you go over to polyhaven.com and you type in rocks ground 03, it will probably give you something very similar, or you look for rocks ground and then look for the third version, and it will give you those items. And you download those guys. They're just 2K textures, obviously you can see them in the name. All right, and then once we get that, we're going to make sure we're set on UV, and then we need to switch over to edit mode in the top left over here, and then we're going to hit U and then smart UV project, and then hit tab to get out of edit mode. And you can see that gives us a pretty nice rock. Pretty good. There's a little stretching, but you won't see it in our camera view because it's a bit of a ways away from the camera. So we'll adjust some windows here, get back to our main view. Whoops, get back to our main view here. And then we're gonna put our block terrain back in so we can see that. And we're gonna select our rock. Now we wanna go ahead and scatter this along the top exactly the way we have it in our image down here in the lower right. So to do that, we're going to use a free plugin that comes with Blender called Scatter. And to get there, you're going to hit the space bar. You're going to have to find it. If you don't have this set up to search, you can just hit the space bar typically, and that'll come up, or you'll go into settings and you'll find the search function, and you'll find it that way. So you can type in Scatter. Whoops. before we do that, we have to have both items selected. So let me go ahead and select the active tool here. And then when I move this up and I move this down here, here's the object scatter settings. So before we start scattering, I'm going to move this up to 0.5. That should be good enough. And the randomness, I'm going to move to 100. So once we got the rock selected, and then I'm going to shift select the terrain, hit spacebar, click on scatter objects, and that'll initiate the scatter tool. So now when I click, then I click on certain areas and then I hit return, it'll go ahead and add the rocks. So that looks pretty good. There might be a stray rock right here. So like this rock that you see right here, we're going to go ahead and delete that easy enough. Select the rocks, tab into edit mode, go to face select, select the rock, hit X, delete faces, and that'll delete that rock as well. And let's go ahead and adjust the texture on it. Okay, so we need to, and to do that, you can't select the rocks that you generated and adjust the texture. It's not going to exist. You need to select the original rock, and then you can go ahead and adjust it that way. So I think they're a little too light. Like we have in our image down here, they're a bit darker. So I'm going to hit Shift A, hit search, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in bright contrast again. And then I'm going to decrease the brightness and probably increase the contrast a little bit. So it's very similar to what we have. And if you don't like the height where they're sitting at on the Z axis, just hit G and Z and you can drop them down into the terrain a little bit more. You get something like that, maybe a little bit higher, I guess. All right, that's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. And of course, if you want to have, let's go ahead and turn back on. It should be on. Okay, block terrain. If you want to adjust the height of this grass, very easy to do. Select the whole block, hit tab, and then what you can do is grab your edge select tool, hit alt, select that edge right there, and then G, Z, and then you can drop it up and down. So you can go ahead and adjust the height whatever way you want. Okay? All right. So once we've done all that, okay, let's back out here. The last thing obviously to do is to render this thing. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this again, Control S. All right. Now to render it, I'm going to switch over to solid mode because it's using less resources. And then what I'm going to do here, and it also prevents crashing. So if you do have limited GPU memory, switch over to solid mode before you render it. Sometimes that helps. I'm going to select my my render engine as cycles, and then we're going to go down to render. We're going to set 512 as the samples. Denoise, I'm using open image denoise. And then all the way down at the bottom, I'm using for my color management, I'm using medium contrast, exposure 2, and gamma of 1.25. All right, once we got those, we need to go back into our layer properties, and then we're going to go down to ambient occlusion. We're going to add some ambient occlusion to this. Okay, Control S again to save, and then F12 to render. And I'll see you on the other side. Okay, once our render's done, I can minimize this window or close it. I'm just going to close it. And then we're going to go to compositing. And then we're going to add the ambient occlusion. And this is going to give it a bit more richness, a little more depth. Excuse me. We'll disengage these nodes. And we're going to add a mix node. Shift A to add a mix node. All right. Take image and go into this socket. Take AO and go into this socket. Take image and go to this socket. And again from image down to this socket here. All right. And that'll show you the AO that it's adding. It's not adding a lot, but it will make a little bit of difference. We're going to drop this down to like 0.7, I guess. Maybe 7.5. Change it from mix to multiply. And there you go. We have our Minecraft terrain block. And go ahead and click on either one of these videos that you see at the top, and you can get, as a way to get to other videos that I've made. I have videos on, like I said, on AO, some clay renderings, and then some kit bashing as well. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.